Good evening. You're listening live to the Extreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob. I'm broadcasting to you from the Pinos Palace just west of Orlando, Florida, in the Indian Hills studio. I have to sit there and say we had a little bit of a technical snafu because RDV from the great Midwest had a little electrical situation. He had a cop fall down, or a bad guy, and get spiked on the Watts Tower in Kenosha, Wisconsin area, roughly. But that's not important right now. What is important is I'd like to say good evening to RDV. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, and it was kind of I had a spark of just inspiration to go watch this movie.
Yeah, Ricochet, 1991, with Denzel Washington, John Lithgow, Ice-T, Lindsay, Wagner, Miss
Wait, don't forget, this also stars Denzel Washington's pecker. That awkward locker scene. I was like, whoa.
I saw a sausage. Sure, I didn't go back and review it, but
I definitely saw a sausage, and I was just like, can we just not have that in the movie? What is this? I'm like, at least he can show his butt.
Let me ask you a question in all seriousness as we get ready to dive into the awesomeness that is Ricochet, the absolutely extreme movie that it is. If you look like Denzel, wouldn't you want to show your body?
Well, though that's what it was. Denzel was hot apparently in 1991. That was his doing his movies. This movie was actually, even the DA. She's kind of like, hey, I kind of like you gonna hide from behind the locker here. You stand there all day.
Big BBC, sir.
Definitely wanted it. And this movie, I forgot there's little one-liners in this.
There's not one-liners. The entire script is one-liners. And John Lithgow has about 75 to 80% of them, conservatively speaking. The man's got just the incredible CV. If he wanted to go interview somewhere, if he was brand new, he could say, look, just go watch these highlights from Ricochet on my one-liners. This is great. So as far as one-liners go in this movie, Ricochet, I will simply sit there and say, my first thought was, who wrote this movie? Because I haven't seen this since it was in the theaters. It's been almost 30 years. I just remember it being an ass-kicking movie. So I'm going back and I'm looking at Steven Souza, who wrote it, and he wrote, get this, 48 Hours, Commando, Jumpin' Jack Flash, Running Man, Die Hard, Die Hard 2, Hudson Hawk, Street Fighter, Beverly Hills Cop 3, Judge Dredd, Knockoff. I mean, so I'm like, holy crap, I get it. This guy's been around. He's done a lot of story editing on television shows. Coincidentally, $6 Million Man, Hardy Boys, a bunch of other stuff. The dude knows his stuff. And I got to tell him, thank you for making this movie, because it was a lot of fun. It's completely over the top. It's gratuitous in a lot of ways. But it's a fun popcorn thriller, and it delivers to me. I know a lot of people go, that's kind of stupid. It's kind of cheesy. And the answer to that is yes. And again, like the great Russell Crowe would ask, are you not entertained? As I like to paraphrase, and it probably wasn't even him.
I gotta say, they're playing through the fact that Denzel Washington was a heartthrob back then. So they really played it up. The locker scene, before that, you see him taking off his clothes while he's got John Lithgow at gunpoint. They're doing anything they can. They're like, even the sex scene, the forced sex scene, I should say.
The rape scene, sex scenes. Let's be clear.
I gotta say, John Lithgow, man, he is one creepy guy, and that's what made me want to watch this movie, because I remember him this role is just like, wow, it's just like Cable Guy, but like not funny.
Was this a first watch for you?
No, it's a second watch for me.
Okay.
I watched this back to back with Virtuosity, man.
Nice. Let's back up a little bit and just go from the beginning here. Okay. Denzel Washington, I remember watching him, and I think something called The Big Blue Marble, Big Black Marble, back in the early 80s, where he meets his father, who's a white guy, and it's kind of like a comedy movie, and they're on the street homeless, and he has to kind of play basketball for a pickup game. We're going to hustle these two fat white dudes. And Denzel, of course, is, bricking a ball and, shooting it over the basket. And he goes, why? Because you thought I was black, I could play. And I thought that was kind of funny. But then I didn't realize until much later in life, in the 90s, Denzel actually played collegiate level basketball. I think it might have been Division 2 or 3. I'm not sure, but played. So he's a legit athlete, super hot. He's got the mustache. He's working. I mean, he's one of those guys like Tom Cruise that you go, he always delivers. He's somebody that you go, hey, it's a Denzel film, I'll go watch it. You don't care what the material is. He's that fun. He's that entertaining. He's that charismatic, good looking, whatever you want to call it. He's got it in spades. He's why we want to go see it. But then the cast, like you said, John Lithgow, a lot of people in here. Ice-T makes the most of what screen time he has, which isn't a lot. Same thing with Lindsay Wagner.
Kevin Pollak, man.
He's great in it too, as his partner. Yeah,
John Amos plays his father, plays the Reverend.
Yes, everybody will recognize him. Well, older people that watched a lot of stuff back then will. It's a loaded movie as far as all the side people too, but it's a pretty simple thing. There's this guy, he's a do-gooder, and Denzel makes you kind of disgusted, but he is like the 90s version of some slick, smooth actor, like say from American Gigolo, Richard Gere. Okay, he's like that. You're like, damn it, I want to hate you, but you're so slick, it's so good. I just can't help but like you. And he's that righteous guy in here who's playing ball in the streets with Ice-T, who's of course who's the hood rat, who's going to be running, doing drugs. That's the character he's playing. But they have streetwise respect for each other, as we'll find out at the end of the movie. And like I say, it does really well. But of course, John Lithgow is trying to be the man. He ends up jumping out of a building. There's all these stupid one-liners. Denzel does this real famous scene at the beginning where he strips down to his boxers and has a gun in the back that he shoots him in the leg. That's how it's
now, does that remind you of someone else who started acting kooky like that? Will Smith. I think of Will Smith and Men in Black.
I wouldn't even put Will in the category at all. He's not funny.
I'm just saying. I understand he's not funny, but I'm just saying Will Smith trying to copy early Denzel. That's what I got.
I've never really thought of it like that, but I suppose a case could be made for that. Huh.
But as far as other actors in here, man, Sherman Howard from Day of the Dead. He's also from this character. He was in Day of the Dead. He was
Day of the Dead in this movie.
No. Day of the Dead. He played Bub. He was yeah.
What character was he?
Oh, in this movie though, he was. Let me go back to 1991 IMDb. That was. He played Kylie. I'm not sure who he was in this, but yeah, he's another notable actor. He also did his own stuff. He's guys been like Jumanji, the TV series. He did voice acting stuff, Zorro. So this guy's been in a lot of things since that Day of the Dead role. We got from Boys in the Hood. Played Mr. Lewis Crump. We got John Cothran. He's his buddy, the one that was caught or hung himself. Basically, made it look like he hung himself.
The bad guy sidekick.
But Linda Donna, she's in here too. I believe she's the one that I think she wrote Denzel.
Yeah, she did. Yeah, so John Lithgow gets put into a prison or whatever it is, and he doesn't have the classic bad guy or border collie line of one eye is a different color than the other, a Merle crossbreed or whatever it's called. His is just a little faded. And I don't know if that's his real eye or what, but I kept noticing that movie going, damn it, is it my print? Because I had an old print or what? But the thing is about it, he does a great slow burn in here. And so the whole thing is he's going to break out, which he does do in completely over the top style with the best lines ever in almost any movie. And he can just tell he's having more fun than Denzel. And we're supposed to be rooting for Denzel, but damn it, John's just doing such a great job at being this bad guy. It's insane.
Can we go back a minute and talk about when John Lithgow he's in the jail cell, and it's him versus the other guy, the guy he beat up in his jail cell.
Cream cake.
Yeah.
The body Ventura. And this movie, when he died and became Jesse the Mind Ventura, and then eventually became governor of Minnesota. Excuse me.
Minnesota.
Not Suda. They put him in there to get him beat up because it's a bunch of Aryan Brotherhood type of people in jail.
It was. I said he's just basically just sucker punched him and and just knocked him out there, bashed his head against the freaking sink. It's hilarious. And so later on. Well, because the Aryan Brothers, how they sell their fights, through battle. I'm like, where are the guards in this? This is like a typical Hollywood. Yes, the guards look away, and we just have giant battles with gladiator style phone books tied around her. I'm like, what is? Are you kidding me? I'm like, oh.
It's Gladiator before Gladiator, where they're fighting and they're taping the phone books up for like body armor, and then of course he ends up defeating Jesse in the battle, and they got their own makeshift spears and weapons and whatnot, and of course he looks around, then turns around, and it just gores him on everything. Like I say, Jesse did a great job selling for it. I mean, you're like, okay, I'll deal with it, but it was important because that's when he became the man, and then he made a deal with all the other Aryans in there about breaking out. He's like, hey, I got money on the outside, you got people, whatever. Let's do this, and they shake hands. So the bond is formed. He's become the alpha. And so
he killed the old man. He's like, hey, do I know you? Bam!
Yeah, glad he did. That guy was annoying for some reason.
Oh, he was in the beginning. He's like, you want a book, something maybe motivational?
No, I want something heavy. Here's Warren Anna Karenina. No, something deeper.
He had a set his knee, right? That's what it was, right? His knee was jacked up, getting shot.
Yeah, because he'd gotten shot in it.
Oh.
All right, so Denzel's moved up the good guy food chain. He's the idealistic guy that in real life would never get promoted because he's not corrupt. And so he's at that tweener stage of being like a DA stuff. They had got promoted. He's married now to the girl he was sweet talking at the beginning during the Hood's basketball scene. And then, of course, he's dunking left, right, hanging on a rim, and doing all those things that you.
No, that was on him playing basketball though. When they were in the rings,
I understand. He's a legit player.
Because I was like, wow, he went to abs and no abs.
I know. Yeah, the stunt doubles in here are not very good. You can tell who they are really quick. But he's married. He's got the kids. Cute family. He's successful. Everyone loves him. It's like, gosh, you can't find anything bad to say about him. And of course, he's putting people away, and he's got this dream project of having this kids thing, and in these Watts towers, and they do. And of course, he's completely naive, which really makes me hate him because he wants to have this fundraiser at his father's church. And of course, the deliciousness about this movie is not just John Lithgow's deliveries. It's about the way he goes to be a bad guy. He breaks out, fakes his own death, because at that time it's still almost pre-internet, not quite cell phone times.
Yeah,
all you have to do is switch dental records, and you're good.
Yeah, the little stooge kid, like you just made him switch it, like, and I was like, "Are you like that's that easy?" I'm like, "Wow," he's like, and when him and the Aryan guy, like, they get out and like. And he's like, well, it's like, I already got your passport. What do we talk about? Here, so we get off. Just shoots him.
Yeah,
and I love it because the kid's like, oh yeah, because like you shot with a shotgun up in the face. They couldn't recognize him.
No, it's really brutal. It's really graphic and gory. I mean, when he decides that he wants to just make his life miserable, so he goes about setting them up in a really improbable way. He does, of course, some of the smart things. He sends them cash. He has somebody undercover kind of go behind him in a restaurant and tape a conversation so he can clip some audio out of it, which are like, okay, what's he going to do? He's going to set him up and how. And it's really awesome because once all this starts rolling in the second half of the film, it's just awesome. You go, okay, I see what he did. So bottom line is he kidnaps him. He drugs them, keeps them hooked up on heroin, cocaine. He hires a hooker, but not just any hooker. He hires one that has, the clap, gonorrhea, know, and she's like, oh, and she's like, she has no problems raping Denzel at all.
She's like, that's cost extra $200. I'm thinking like, wow.
He's like, no. She's like, yeah, I know, no, your big head's saying no, but your little head's saying yes. And she gets on top and just starts riding him, and you're like, this is kind of creepy. You don't get too many female rape scenes in movies these days, and you know
what's funny? I got this movie and Rich Rossi mixed up when it came to that scene. I was like, I remember a freaking pool scene. I'm like, which movie was it in though? Because they're both like freaking early '90s. Like, yeah. So I was like, oh yeah, this is the pool scene. As soon as I saw it, I'm like, oh yeah, he's gonna, yeah. I was like, but I forgot. I watched it on TV, man. So that was edited.
Actually, the unrated version never made it out, so that's kind of interesting because there's definitely some even darker stuff to it because he gets dropped off on the steps of City Hall. Of course, he gets called in. They suspend him. He can't convince anybody, including his wife, what's going on.
That's one thing I hated.
What's that?
That his wife was being just so upset. Especially when, he's like, and she wouldn't trust him and all. He's like, why are you acting this way? It's like, how dare you didn't tell me? I was like, well, why would I tell you? Look the way you're acting. You don't believe me anyway. You think I really went out and did it? I was like, oh, I would have left the girl and went for the DA.
Oh, that wouldn't have been too super. But no, it's kind of cool because at the scene you see the setup, and so it becomes not what John Lithgow is going to do to him. It's basically how is Denzel going to react to it. So we're going to see what he's made of, and we find out that he ends up being kind of smart, which we knew. But like I say, the naiveness kind of runs off a little bit because at this point he's almost got nothing to do, and he gets a video of John Lithgow's character kind of sneaking in with an axe literally over the head of his two children at night. And, he's just coming off his drug thing. So he runs out in his nightgown and underwear to the playground where his kids are at, sees somebody that he thinks is him, pulls the gun out. Of course, it's not. It's a stupid clown. But he goes back and he runs straight to the DA, which is this is completely stupid and worse than naive. It's the worst part of the movie. We're like, see, I told you guys, and here's the proof. I'm so glad I went back and brought the VCR because here it is on the tape. And of course, it's a copy of the sex tape because somebody snuck in while he ran out. I mean, they completely played him like a violin. It was so simple. But where it gets so over the top is some of the lines John Lithgow says in some throwaway scenes. When he's up against the parole board, they don't release him because the guy's like, well, I want to hear from you. What would you do if you got released? He's like, basically, I'd like to go home and I'd like to fuck your wife and then maybe your daughter and then maybe your dog. Ha 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 ha. Then he has like this gun that shoots him, and then you're like, what? And then he makes some other line to somebody else there about flossing with your wife's pubic hair. I mean, I'm not.
I was like,
oh. It's lines like this all through the movie. It's not just one or two. It is nonstop.
I was like, that's just a little gross there, bro. I was like, it's like what?
Yeah. So
it's messed up.
He goes back and he sees Ice-T's character, who is like, what the hell are you doing here, bro? And he basically tells him, hey, don't do all this stuff. I don't want you, causing any drug selling going on over there by my charity project or whatever. And then when he goes back to see him when he's in trouble, he's like, I got you, man. I got you. Yo. Bring the ladies over here. So he brings his wife and his two girls, the drug dealers in the housing project, protect them. It's like, yo, take them to back, protect them with your life or whatever. All right. And this is Ice-T playing all the street stuff. And so Ice-T goes out there with some of his posse. And this is where it's so silly. There's so much foreshadowing going on. They're playing, I think it's Angels Wear Dirty Faces with James Cagney in it. Mom, on top of the world. So Denzel goes out there, stands on top of the building. It's at night. Everybody's there filming it, watching it. They think he's gone ape shit crazy. And the whole idea here is that he's going to trick John Lithgow's character into believing he's going to commit suicide because it worked too well. And they don't like it. So he jumps through it. And then, the building explodes, the drug building. And of course, it's fake because they run to the.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, like, realistically, he jumps through that glass roof. Like, he would have cut himself up if he made it to the little chute that they use for construction. It goes in the dumpster down below. I'm like, bro, you could have got stuck in there and then just basically died.
Yeah, it's just kind of silly, but
then they went cable guy.
Yeah, they went cable guy. There's the electric tower instead of a satellite dish where you can play with your friends from Vietnam. So Lithgow's character knows he's over there because he gets caught and he goes over there and he loses it. He's so composed and he's crazy, but just loses it. So they do this little climbing duel on the tower where they're fighting each other, which is really stupid, but kind of cool to watch. And they get near the top. And of course, when right before Denzel was getting raped, there's this goofy little arm wrestling scene. So of course they kind of grapple with their same arms again. I think Denzel's arm gets spiked on there and he has to lift it up. And then John Lithgow is chasing him up. But of course,
was that a nod to Commando?
It might have been,
or Predator.
Just because, like I said, the writer did all these movies with these great one-liners. And so they get to the top, and then Denzel looks like he's fallen, but kind of hooks himself onto like a wire or a rope, which of course he's grounded, allegedly. And then he yells out to Ice-T and his buddies, now, do it now. They flip the switch and electrocute John Lithgow while he's on there, and he gets punched off, and you see him falling down, and he just gets absolutely impaled, gored, in not a cutaway scene. And I'm like, that's pretty gruesome. I liked it, but I kind of wasn't expecting it. But the way this movie was, over the top, start to finish, No rest for the wicked, no time to breathe. No, you do not want to get up because you might miss a line or good scene. It's a long movie. It's almost 2 hours, but I got to tell you, for me, I loved it a lot. I forgot how batshit crazy it was. I remembered that it was, but in our top 10 Tuesdays in 1991, it was on my runner-up list, which I usually don't do runner-ups. And I'm looking at it going, man, if it was just a little bit better, maybe I could put it over the top. But this is a cult classic. Denzel's done a lot of movies. He's done a lot of better movies.
Yep.
But this one is an instant watch. You've got to go see it if you haven't seen it. What do you think?
I say you're right about one thing. Blake's alive. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to kill me.
A movie like this today, really, there hasn't been a movie like this in a while. The amount of gore and the vulgar one-liners.
Like I said, the early of Denzel Washington, Virtuosity, you had the Pelican Brief.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like Out of Time, Deja Vu, the 90s, man. That was dude. That was Denzel. The 90s is Denzel. I give it to him.
Yeah, we had a comment in the chat about doing the Fast and Furious movies, and we've talked about doing those. And I think the Ricochet one's a good one to do because it's not one of Denzel's more popular ones per se, but people that have been around and are huge fans of him have seen it. Like the younger crowd out there, if you want to see something that's just crazy, and actually at the time, fairly common for 80s, 90s type movies that kind of died down in the mid 90s, I would say. It's definitely an awesome watch. I agree with you. So we'll definitely be doing more Denzel movies in addition to the Fast and Furious and some other ones as well. Fun as hell, Ed Brewer saying in chat, Ed, you're absolutely 100% right. It is, it doesn't have to be the best movie, but as long as you're entertained and you have a good time with it, and it's, I don't see how someone's going to get offended by it. You get sexy Denzel with a mustache. Facial hair is on its way out in the 90s, unfortunately. That was a big thing in the 80s. Yeah. You get turtleneck.
Maybe that's where Ingleton got his mustache from, was Denzel. He's a Denzel fan. Remember, he always says he's a big Denzel fan. Maybe that's where he got from.
He'll say his wife likes it, which, whatever. Okay.
I don't know. She said that she dislikes stubble. Who knows? But speaking of Lithgow, his one-liners here at the very beginning. It's like, park back up where she's going to need a paper bag over her head when her boyfriend fucks what's left of her.
I know, right?
I was like, right from the get-go, I was like, holy crap. Is like, I forgot all the language in this, but the one-liners are just hilarious in this.
But you think it's only going to be one-liner or maybe one at the end, where, I guess you got the point, like Denzel says something like that. You're like, no, it's all the way through the movie. Oh. And John Lithgow does that thing where he talks like this and slow and angry sounding, like gritting his teeth. So it's even more fun to listen to.
Right?
Yeah.
Like I said, this guy, the director, he directed Highlander. He did a couple episodes. He directed Teen Wolf for the MTV. Mm-hmm. He just did 2 episodes of 13 The Y, Resident Evil Extension. This guy has done a couple different movies, so that's why I think this movie kind of kind of close to Highlander in the sense where the one-liners are there are here and there. There's not a bunch, but there is some situational humor. It's not complete. It's still drama, still action, but it's well balanced out. It's not just like Will Smith or like oh snap, where like it's every single movie like Independence Day was all constantly all this one-liners, But this was actually pretty decent. Like I said, I remember this came out, and then a few years later, like 4 years later, Virtuosity came out. I was like, holy crap! I couldn't believe it. And then watching everything of the 90s, even the Net. I'm not sure if Denzel was there or not, but I remember the Pelican Brief. That was pretty good too. Or was it Pelican Brief or Pelican Golf?
90s. He definitely the stratosphere by all accounts. I'm not sure if it was.
Like I said, where I think Denzel went wrong was Man on Fire. To me, that was just like, I was like, wow, he just saves the girl and trades his life and then just dies. I'm like, really? That's how you're gonna? I'm like, wow. I was like, wow. I'm like, come on. You're doing him wrong, You gotta let him breathe. You gotta let him spread his wings.
Well, it's an interesting thing to discuss. I know we've talked about that off screen before. I'm sure when we get to reviewing Man of Fire, we'll discuss that. I'll end on this as we close up. For those of you that are familiar with, say, Dexter, there was a season on there where John Lithgow was one of the bad guys. He's phenomenal in that. So even though he was older at the time, I think he was in his 70s, and he's an older gentleman now. He's still great. He's done a lot of fantastic things. just wonderful to watch. I mean, in this movie, and he almost breaks that kind of fatherly type vibe if you watch him. But he's really powerful for it. And seeing him in Dexter totally sealed it. I'd forgotten how good he was, and I kept thinking, man, this Dexter reminds me of the first time he was a bad guy that I recall, and that was in this movie Ricochet.
Yeah, I never noticed this before, but Ice-T or Ice-Q, whatever his name is, I think it's Ice-T. He's like, he actually hints that they're gonna electrocute him because he says his character says like on the phone with Lithgow, he's like, do you want to know who's really got the power? Bring your ass to the tower.
That's right.
So they're actually they are dropping hints. So yeah, who's got the power? Yeah,
and it is supposed to be in the Die Hard universe. It's the same person on TV giving the news. I didn't know that, but reading up on it, apparently they just did that as an inside joke. So if that matters to anybody, great. If not, that's fine too. But yes, this movie's totally extreme. Go see it. We will be reviewing more Denzel. Scream 5, Leandro, we will definitely be doing.
Oh, that's what it is. You said the alternate versions. Sorry to cut you off, but the UK got rid of the child porn magazine.
Yeah.
They deleted that because that was a big thing. But apparently this feature is Tales from the Crypt. And there's a connection to that episode. So
yeah. All right. Thanks for joining me again tonight, RDB. I'd like to thank Ed, Leandro, and everybody else listening to that too. Great movie. Have fun seeing it.
Also, one thing that really irritated this movie is when he wakes up, he sees the movie, the video VHS. He runs out the house. They're taking the DVD VHS with them.
Yep. That was the silly thing I was saying when he grabs it, and then it's the sex tape, and it's like, you idiot! You're so dumb and naive. Come on, you're no. I'm
gonna run out in my bathrobe. I'm already woozy as it is. Well, I don't care what anybody thinks. I'm like, well, dude, you look
the clown.
I know, right? It's like the Big Lebowski is in his underwear, just running around.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Have a good night. Be prepared for Top 10 Tuesdays coming up. We might be redoing the 80s with a special twist on it. We'll see what happens here shortly. Have a good night, and as always, stay extreme.